The next Crash game might look a bit different from the Insane trilogy. Let's talk about it!
Whoa!
What's up guys, Canadian Guy here, and back with a brand new video. So, we are on the horizon for a brand new Crash Bandicoot game. This is something exciting because since Mind Over Mutant, we have not had an original Crash platformer. To be exact, it's almost been 12 years. Now, before I continue, I do want to get a little sidetracked and mention that it is highly unlikely that the next Crash game will be a remake. During an Activision quarterly call, when one of the investors asked about remakes, Activision made it a point twice that though remakes and remasters are great, they want to expand on their current IP that they have established with these remakes and remasters. I made a video talking about this. You can check it out in the card in the top right corner or in the description below. And spill my coffee all over. But overall, we can strongly assume that the next game is going to be brand new. With the new Crash game on the way, or at least this is what we are assuming, some, like myself, are wondering what the game is going to look like. Now, a lot of people are just going to assume and jump up and say that it will likely look like the Insane trilogy, but just better. But I'm going to have to disagree with the thought that this is the only assumed possibility. See, the original Insane trilogy was made on what is called the Alchemy engine, an engine that is quite old and exclusive to Activision. Now, this engine was used by Vicarious Visions, Toys for Bob, and Beanox. It was used for the entire Skylanders franchise, and these three companies worked together hand in hand on the same engine to be able to produce a new game just about every year. However, when Spyro Reignited was announced, for the first time in years, one of the companies, Toys for Bob, switched from the dated Alchemy engine to the Unreal engine. This is a modern and seemingly much more powerful engine that exceeded Crash Bandicoot's. There was actually a lot of criticism towards Activision and Vicarious Visions from the Crash fan base, as some felt that there was a lot more love given to Spyro graphically compared to the Crash Insane trilogy. The colors, animation, and even lighting exceeded almost all expectations when rumors were floating around about Spyro's comeback. But this is not to the fault of Vicarious Visions or their work. It's not fair to compare them because the Unreal Engine is a more powerful engine than Alchemy. We can actually compare Spyro between him and the Alchemy engine and in the Unreal Engine. You can see that these Spyros look quite different, but overall, Spyro on the Unreal Engine looks significantly better. We can also look at areas on Spyro Circuit that were inspired by the Reignited trilogy, and again, Reignited's colors, lighting, and shaders are better. So it would seem that Spyro's engine is more powerful than Crash's Alchemy. Because of this, I do believe that Vicarious Visions will be using the Unreal Engine for the next Crash game. With Crash being the Unreal Engine, it grants access to the same kind of materials, shaders, and even renders the game the same as Spyro, and this is completely different from the Alchemy engine, which would mean quite a different looking Crash Bandicoot game compared to the Insane trilogy overall in terms of art. It might be more stylized like Reignited. Now, some of you might try to jump up to the comment sections and tell me that just because Spyro was made in the Unreal Engine, it does not mean that Crash will be as well. And for that, I have two statements. Now, I've said this before, but here's a quick summary of how Activision works. They buy a massive amount of studios, but instead of assigning each one to a single project, they have multiple studios working on a single project. While they don't have many active IPs, they are able to turn over games much faster than a regular studio. Crash and Spyro have had this treatment since the Insane trilogy. The three studios work together, and they almost work as a tag team. When one studio leads a project, the other two play as support to that specific project. So all three companies work in tandem together like a well-oiled machine. If that is the case, then what needs to be constantly optimized is workflow. A good workflow allows for a smoother development of a game. This is how they were able to produce so many Skylanders Skylander games in such a small amount of time. But the biggest thing that causes slowdowns in terms of development is compatibility issues. One thing that causes compatibility issues is using multiple engines among different projects. In order for them to maintain their smooth workflow and not to have to hire multiple artists for multiple engines or have compatibility errors, it would be a smart move to make sure everybody and every company is on board with just one engine when sharing assets, the Unreal Engine. On top of it making sense for workflow purposes, there's actual evidence that Vicarious Visions are working on the Unreal Engine. When you go over to Vicarious Visions website and look at their job applications, there is 2 jobs available, an environment artist and a lighting artist. Both applications suggest that having experience in the Unreal Engine would be beneficial to getting the job. No other engine like Unity is suggested in either profiles. Now, there is only one more hole to this that I want to cover. If all 3 studios are converting over to the Unreal Engine, why would Crash Team Racing be on the Alchemy engine after the fact that Spyro was on the Unreal Engine? Well, during an on-air live playthrough of CTR on Facebook, I believe it was during the GDC 2019, an Activision rep had said that after the Insane Trilogy came out, the comments had said that they should also do CTR. They went to the drawing board and decided that it was a viable option. That means that CTR was not originally planned when the Insane Trilogy was in development. It started development after the fact the Insane Trilogy came out. But the problem was that they needed a studio to lead the project in time to meet their one family-friendly game per year quota. Vicarious was just too busy, and Toys for Bob was incredibly more busy with already being in development with the Spyro Reignited trilogy. So they turned to Beanox to develop the game. But because they decided to use the Alchemy engine, they actually could recycle assets from the original Insane Trilogy, like characters, lighting, and animations, allowing Beanox to have a faster turnover time than if they had to remake the assets from scratch in the Unreal Engine. But it's been 3 years since we have seen a project from Vicarious Visions, so that means that they have had more time to rebuild the Crash universe in Unreal splendor. So in my mind, that more than likely means that the next Crash game will be created in the Unreal Engine. So Crash Bandicoot will likely have access to the beautiful lighting and environments that Spyro had. Heck, they could even recycle some assets from Reignited. But there's even more to this. If the next Crash game is made in the Unreal Engine, that means if there is another Crash Team Racing sequel in the future, they will likely recycle the assets from the Unreal Crash game and make CTR in the very same engine. So we would get CTR in the same graphic splendor similar to the next theoretical Crash game and Reignited. The point I'm trying to get to is simple. I believe that the future for all Crash and Spyro games will be on the Unreal Engine. It's more universally known so that when you hire artists, they don't have to learn a brand new program and engine. They already know what they're doing. The engine is powerful and one of the easiest to use, and overall produces and renders images better than Alchemy does. But there is something else that has me thinking. There was a leak from Toys for Bob a few months back where they accidentally shared a photo with concept art of a new Crash Bandicoot game on their walls. So why does the support team have major villains drafted like Dingodile, Entropy, and even Mutant Embryo? See, it's entirely possible that the art direction might be led by Toys for Bob, so that means Crash might have a similar art style to the Reignited trilogy. It may not be one-to-one the exact same aesthetic as Reignited, but it might be artistically similar. It also makes sense because they already have experience in the Unreal Engine and could be teaching Vicarious Visions how to better implement it. Now, that's just a little possible theory, don't take it as anything else. So, what do you think the next Crash game will look like on the Unreal Engine? Do you disagree with that notion? And do you want to have the aesthetics of Reignited or its own deal? Comment below and let me know. A huge thank you to all those who support the channel through Patreon and being a sponsor on the channel. If you'd like to help it out, check out the links in the description below where you can buy some CGE merch or become a Patreon. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe for more gaming and nostalgic content. Thank you so much everyone, and I'll see you guys in the next video.